Does anyone remember the word of the year? The word of the year for our community? Time. Beautiful. The word of the year is time. If you weren't here last week, I talked about how everyone should pick a word to define their year, and the word for our parish is time. So I was thinking the other day about the increments of time. And the biggest amount of time in our lifetime is our lifetime. And then we break down to a smaller increment, which is probably a generation, 25 years. Then decade, then year, month, week, day, and even the day is broken down into small increments of time. And we're constantly talking about the time. What time is it? Is it time to leave? We're going to get out early today for church because we had 2 priests giving communion and no memorials, so we'll save some time. We're always thinking about time. The period of time that we should be most concerned about is today. The Bible says sufficient for today is its own problems, its own worries, its own stresses. I was talking to a friend of mine a couple weeks ago who was a doctor, and we were talking about the subject of suicide. And he gave me a great analogy, not only for that, but for anxiety and stress. A great analogy. He said every day I go out and I walk my dog 2 miles, and I can handle walking the dog 2 miles. If I try to do a month's worth of walking in a day, so 2 miles times 30 days, I will probably die. I can't handle walking 60 miles in a day. There are people who probably can do that, but I'm not one of them. He said if I try to do a year's worth of walking in one day, that is 750 miles, that cannot be done. It is impossible. No human being can walk 750 miles in a day. So we're meant, he said, to take a day's worth of walking, and we can handle that. And we can take a day's worth of anxiety. We can handle that. When people start trying to take a month worth of walking, a month worth of anxiety, a year worth of anxiety, a lifetime worth of anxiety, they fall apart because we're not built to handle anxiety like that. Just like we're not built to handle walking 60 miles at a time. We can handle 2. Like we can handle 1 day's worth of anxiety at a time. So if you're sitting in church and you're anxious, you shouldn't be anxious right at this moment because nothing's going to happen to you. You might get bored or fall asleep, but nothing else is going to happen. You're not going to get fired. You're not going to fail a test. You're not going to get in a fight with somebody. That might happen tomorrow, but it's not going to happen right now. There's no need for you to feel anxious right now. We're just sitting calmly in church. Most of us do not live for today. We don't even live in today. We either live in the past, and thoughts, voices, or sins of the past dominate today and today's thoughts. Or we live in the future, and we have anxiety about the future, and that overwhelms today. So either we're beset with the weight of guilt or the anxiety of the future, and it kind of costs us having a good day today. The operative word in the gospel lesson this morning is the word today. Today. Because if you took the word today out of the gospel lesson, it would change the meaning entirely. What do I mean? This morning's gospel lesson is about a man named Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a tax collector. When you see the words or the letters IRS, how many people have a negative reaction to those letters, IRS? How many people have a very positive reaction to those letters, IRS? I mean, even when I am writing out the quarterly taxes I pay, and I write on the envelope, like my anxiety goes up. Like, I'm paying enough, they shouldn't audit me, they're not going to get me in trouble, but just writing the letters out, seeing them in print makes me nervous. And we've got a codified tax code. It's not even random or arbitrary. Like, you make so much money, you're going to pay so much taxes. So back in Jesus' day, the tax collectors would come into your house and they would say, I think you're doing well. I think I should take 20% of your property. And I'm going to take that and that and that and that because that's what I want. And I'll take a little extra for myself. So if you think the IRS is anxiety-inducing, wait until the tax collector of Jesus' time came to your house and arbitrarily just took your property. No one liked the tax collectors. They were the town pariahs. So Zacchaeus was a tax collector, and he was short. And he heard that Jesus was coming into Jericho, and he wanted to see who Jesus was. But he was prohibited, not because he was short, but because the crowd didn't like him. He was like, I'm trying to get a seat. And you're like, out if you're Zacchaeus. Anyone ever been to Disney World? And you see the parade down Main Street, if you don't get there like an hour before, it's like 4 deep, and you've got like the little kid, the short little 2-year-old who just can't wait to see Mickey Mouse. You're like, can you let my cute kid like get into the front of the line and see Mickey Mouse? You're like, forget it. You should have gotten here an hour ago. Anyone ever lived that experience? So that's like Zacchaeus. I want to see who Jesus was. They're like, we don't like you, so you're going to the back of the crowd. Yesterday at the youth retreat, and I'm so happy the church is full today, despite the fact that like 70 of us are over in Clearwater at the Goya retreat, kids and parents. Yesterday at the youth retreat over there, we talked about encouragement and how our society sends mixed signals in what it encourages. I'm going off on a tangent a little bit. We taught, and one of the biggest examples of mixed message is read the Bible when Jesus says, live simply. Be content with what you have. Then you turn on the radio or the TV and it says, anyone who's anyone has this expensive pair of shoes. So you're like, live simply, expensive stuff. And expensive stuff usually wins. So there are lots of people who want to get to Christ. They might be our teenagers, they might be young adults, they might be middle-aged people or older people. And people don't encourage that. Like they were not encouraging Zacchaeus. They were like, get out of here. They weren't encouraging him. And many times we are discouraged from getting to Christ by the crowd. It's like, forget church, come to the soccer game on Sunday morning. Or forget living simple, buy this thing and feel pressure to own certain things. So there are lots of people who can't get to Christ, but on account of the crowd that's anti-Christ. Just like the crowd, now the crowd in Jerusalem was not anti-Christ, they were anti-Zacchaeus. So let's jump back to the story. Jesus told Zacchaeus, who went up and climbed up into a sycamore tree, he said, I must stay at your house, and I must stay there today. I must stay there today. Jesus didn't wait one day to take care of Zacchaeus' need. He didn't say, call the office or make an appointment with one of the disciples. He said, I'm going to stay in your house, I'm going to stay there today. Many times we put off stuff that needs taken care of for fear. We don't have conversations we need to have with people. We don't create environments where it's safe to be honest. And so we waste today, and we waste many days out of fear of confronting things. When Jesus came to Zacchaeus' house, many complained. They said, why is Jesus, and they complained of the disciples, why is Jesus, your teacher, having dinner with the worst sinner in their town? And Jesus looked at Zacchaeus, and while they're having dinner, Zacchaeus said, you know, Lord, I get it. I'm terrible. I have defrauded lots of people of lots of things. If I've defrauded anybody, I'm going to pay it back fourfold. And I'm going to take half of what's left of that, and I'm going to give it to the poor. And Jesus looked at Zacchaeus and said, today salvation came to this house. Today salvation came to this house because you did the right thing. Jesus didn't say, okay, good job, Zacchaeus, you're on probation for 5 years. We'll talk about it later, whether I can restore you. The minute Zacchaeus' heart changed, Jesus said, today salvation came to this house. We need to eagerly embrace Christ today. We don't have to wait. If your prayer life is non-existent or poor, pray today. If you haven't cracked open the Bible in a while, crack it open today. There's no probation period. There's no need to wait for that. If you don't have a great relationship with somebody, you can address that today. If you're not doing great as a parent, you can deal with that today. If you've been mean to your neighbor, you can deal with that today. The lesson Jesus leaves us with is that the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. And the person that was lost on that particular day, in that particular town, was Zacchaeus. In our church, we have a job to seek and save the lost and to preserve those who are not lost from being lost. Preserve those who are not yet lost from being lost. We offer many opportunities to renew faith, to learn and to recharge, like the weekly Bible studies, or a 4-week class in Orthodoxy 101, or a 3-hour retreat if you can't give one day a week to Bible study, or even 4 weeks to Orthodoxy 101, come to a 3-hour retreat next Saturday. So we have stuff for all ages and various time commitments. In conclusion, today, any day is a great day. We can experience Christ. Any day is a good day to pray. Any day is a good day to grow or talk or forgive or encourage. And any day includes especially today. So make the most of today with Christ and with one another. One last comment on time. I mentioned last week we should all try to get to church on time. 10 o'clock is on time. Don't come during the Lord's Prayer. You've missed the gospel, the creed, the consecration, and many other things. So please come on time. We get everywhere else on time in the world. Let's make this a year that we get here on time. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for worshiping together today.